The origins of this fort are shrouded in the mists of history. There are some who believe that the first fort here was built by the Shatavahanas in the 1st century AD. However, what is beyond dispute is that by 12th century, the place had become famous as Devgiri. The name was apt because the hillside was studded with temples dedicated to Jain, Buddhist and Hindu deities. The place was prosperous and ruled by Yadava dynasty. This tempted the Delhi sultans to attack it and repeatedly plunder it. The first to do so was Alauddin Khilji. Since then, 8 centuries passed and 7 dynasties ruled over this fort. The Khiljis were followed by Tughlaqs, Bahmanis, Mughals, Marathas and Asaf Jahis. It is not surprising at all that there are many ruins in the fort that tell many a colorful tale.
The famous fort, earlier known as Devgiri, stands close to Aurangzeb in Maharashtra. From a distance, it appears as a huge pagoda carved out of hard rock, covered with a green carpet of moss. Various structures in its compound have been built at different times and seem to mount a fascinating exhibition of architectural styles.
इस किले की ख़ास खूबी यही है कि ये और दूसरे किलों की जैसा ये तामीर नहीं किया गया. इट वॉज नॉट बिल्ट, इट वॉज कार्व्ड, इट वॉज कार्व्ड आउट ऑफ वन सिंगल रॉक. और यही वजह है कि इसकी मजबूती जो है इस कदर है कि डिफेंस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से लीजिए आप, सिक्योरिटी सेफ्टी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ले लीजिए, तो मेरा ऐसा ख्याल है कि कोई दूसरा किला इसकी शायद बराबरी ना करे. और यही वजह है कि इसको इनविंसिबल कहा जाता है, यानी एक ऐसा किला जो नाकाबिल तस्खीर है, जिसको हम फतह नहीं कर सकते.
This fort has withstood many assaults in its long life spanning 15 centuries. Battles fought here have more than once changed the course of Indian history. Alauddin Khilji, Muhammad Tughlaq, Malik Ambar, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb attacked it one after another. Those who dwelt within suffered but stoically picked up the threads of their ravaged lives every time.
Daulatabad is absolutely brilliant in that it perhaps best reflects the layers of construction for centuries, overbuilt and rebuilt, and each time more secure than the last.
The fort was built in several stages across centuries and has many layers, like the ramparts, commissioned by different rulers who commanded control. There are 4 rows of ramparts, and the outermost of these, with a thick wall, was built by Malik Ambar. Small narrow gates are located strategically to facilitate entry and exit. The pathways are sharply angled to slow down enemy forces. An old painting depicts the ingenious design of this fort. After crossing the ramparts, the invader confronted another formidable obstacle: the moats, some natural, others man-made.
You just imagine this entire fort as only conical, huge, isolated hill. There is no hill around it, although it's a range of mountains here. But this particular piece they have chosen, right from selection of the site, they are so choosy and careful. So it's a fort, so criteria is about it has to work as a perfect apparatus of the safety and the military.
There are 8 main gates, of which only 2 are in use today. A narrow, confusing passage weaves its way through the maze of real and fake entrances. Towers overlooking the route added to the protective armor. Well-armed soldiers deployed there could easily target the invaders.
The fort at Daulatabad is reckoned among the most difficult forts to conquer in the whole of India. Nature has provided it with wonderful defenses. On 3 sides, it is surrounded by high hills, and it stands itself on a sharply chiseled rock about which it is said that not even a snake or ant could climb it up. What about man? If somehow an invader crossed these, he was confronted with 3 parallel rows of ramparts, beyond which lay man-made moats, once upon a time full of bloodthirsty crocodiles and more poisonous snakes. And still beyond lies a dark maze where stood guardians of the fort holding boiling water to pour over invaders. It truly was a very difficult fort to conquer. One could lay it low only with the help of a traitor.
A wooden drawbridge led to the most terrifying, life-threatening obstacle. An underground tunnel named Andhari was excavated through hard rock to provide a pitch-dark passage. Sentinels stood at heights with cauldrons of boiling oil ready to pour on the invaders. Today, the visitors negotiate this stretch with the aid of torches. There are many false passages leading to blind alleyways or to a fatal fall in the moat. The tunnel could be filled with toxic smoke to harass those confined in its entrails. The passage opened at the other end on the rooftop, where the exit point was sealed with a strong iron lid. Stairs on the side leading up were built much later for the convenience of visitors.
हम 800 साल पुरानी चीज़ देख रहे हैं और ये वाकई दिमाग को पागल करने वाली चीज़ है। आर्किटेक्ट के तौर पे मैं तो कभी कभी पागल हो जाता हूँ ये जब देखता हूँ तो। सवेरे अलग दिखती है, दोपहर में अलग दिखेगी, शाम को अलग दिखेगी। तकतन के दाता तुम हो दक्कन के सार्वभौम सुखदाता भाग्यदाता।
Hundreds of broken statues and remnants of ruins are scattered all over the place. They bear witness to the immensely rich cultural heritage and glorious history of Devgiri and Daultabad.
Devgiri Fort is one of the very few forts in India which not just tells us about the war strategies and the battles fought and won in this region, but also speaks of the cultural tradition during the Yadava dynasty. It was the golden period for art and culture in this region. Many great literary works, a very famous treatise called Sangeet Ratnakar, which is like a Bible for the musicians and musicologists, and a famous musician Gopal Nayak was able to contribute in a great way by composing many new ragas. One of the ragas which is named after the fort is Rag Devgiri Bilawal.
There is an old Jain temple in the precincts that has a courtyard divided into 25 galleries by ornate pillars. The magnificent shrine changed into a mosque with the passage of time, and that's why we also encounter domes and arches here. A statue of Bharat Mata was installed here after independence, and today it is known as Bharat Mata Mandir. At the foot of the hill, a number of caves have been cut into the rock face. These provided shelter for Buddhist and Jain monks. This monastic vihar underlines the irony of how the message of peace resonated in the shadow of war here.
Very few people recollect that this place has served once as the capital of the country. It was Muhammad bin Tughlaq who issued a diktat that the entire population of Delhi be transferred to Devgiri, and it was he who named this place Daulatabad. To accomplish this task, a road was built over 1,000 kilometers long, and for months the people of Delhi suffered on this trail. Tughlaq was forced to move back his capital to Delhi after 17 years. But while he lived here and this place served as the capital of the country, life here was colorful and prosperous. We get an interesting account of those days in the travelogue of Ibn Battuta.
The fort stands today as a memorial to Muhammad Shah Tughlaq, who was an eccentric tyrant for many in his lifetime.
You see that there are in history mad dreamers, and one of them was Tughlaq. He wanted to change the world as he got it, and in that he wanted to bring new reforms, do new things, and he was thought to be a madcap. Here is a man who's not understood in his time because he had a dream, and they were not satisfied. These are the kind of people who are not satisfied with reality as given. They wanted to change that reality to the extent they could. Sometimes they succeeded, sometimes they did not.
This fort was under the control of the Bahmanis in the 15th century. It was a Bahmani Sultan who got the 65-meter tall Chand Minar constructed to celebrate the conquest of Gujarat. Built in the Persian Turkic style, it is the second tallest tower in India. Over 33 meters in circumference, the Chand Minar could serve as a watchtower if needed.
Different time slots in the history, same structure, same geographic locations, and you see the amalgamation of different styles and its impacts.
This palace is famous as Chini Mahal, as in the past its walls were covered with colorful Chinese tiles. Tanna Shah, the last ruler of Golconda, was kept here as a prisoner by Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. When Aurangzeb captured the fort, he ordered large cannons that could be rotated to fire in all directions, to be placed at strategic locations to reinforce its defenses. Daultabad was considered the gateway to the Deccan, and all the sultans of Delhi and Mughal emperors desired to occupy it. Aurangzeb spent a very large part of his life here. A major attraction for the visitors is a large cannon named Qilai-e-Shikan, the wrecker of forts, with verses of the Holy Quran and the name of Aurangzeb inscribed on it.
The Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb had a very special relationship with the fort of Daulatabad. When a young prince, his father Shah Jahan had appointed him the governor of Deccan, and it was he who conquered most of these territories for his father and for the Mughal Empire. It was Aurangzeb once again who got this great cannon put here on this tower named Qilai-e-Shikan. The name of the cannon was itself enough to strike terror in the hearts of the enemies. Aurangzeb fell in love with this place and wished to be buried here when his time came. And close by in Daultabad is his tomb, a very plain tomb of a great emperor, keeping his memory alive.
Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb was buried here according to his last wish. The beautiful marble screen that surrounds the Spartan tomb was added years later by Lord Curzon.
You go to Aligarh Muslim Library, and on the manuscript section you have a copy of Quran which was personally, the copying was done by Aurangzeb in his own handwriting. As you know, Aurangzeb did not take any money from the state exchequer. He used to tailor these caps and things and earn money and lived a very, very austere life. The point is that although they were Muslims, although they were outsiders, although they came from a different religion, although they had a zeal to win, and perhaps sometimes even a zeal to win even if it is done through a lot of killing. But they interestingly also played a role in unifying the totally disparate elements of Indian polity, to bring them together in some ways and to hold them on together in some ways.
Aurangzeb tried to weave India into one political and cultural unit during his long stay in Daultabad.
बड़े बड़े स्कॉलर्स यहाँ पर आए थे, बड़े बड़े ट्रैवलर्स यहाँ पर आए थे, पोएट्स यहाँ पर आए थे, और उन्होंने इसकी शान में कई बातें लिखी है, कई क़सीदे लिखे हैं, मसनवियाँ लिखी है। हज़रत अमीर खुसरो यहाँ आए थे मुबारक शाह खिलजी के दौर में, ऐसा कहा जाता है कि उनके साथ ही वो यहाँ पर आए थे, और यहाँ का किला और यहाँ की बस्ती देख के वो बहुत मुतासिर हुए, और उन्होंने यहाँ की सीनरीज़, यहाँ के मंज़र देखकर इसको जो है जन्नत कहा था, कि और उन्होंने ये बात भी कही थी कि यहाँ की हवा जो है आबो हवा या मसीहा है और यहाँ का पानी आब खिज़र।
The salubrious climate and prosperity tempted invaders. According to historians, Alauddin Khilji plundered from this place a booty of 600 mons of gold, 700 mons of pearls, 2 mons of diamonds, and precious gems. This wealth allowed him to tilt the scales in his favor and capture the throne of Delhi. Daultabad attracted Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan like a powerful magnet. The Baradari at the top of the fort was built by him. Open pavilions decorated with arches and pillars like this were a characteristic feature of Mughal architecture.
Whether you are a student of architecture or you are a design student, for every class of the society, this particular work caters to some kind of a visual feast, you know, everybody is satisfied. It's like it's a cross section of those 800 years. You see different styles, so beautiful. It's like a jungle. Jungle में कैसे एक पेड़ नीम का होगा, एक किसी आम का होगा, किसी चीज़ का होगा, but by and large jungle looks so beautiful for a common man. वो ऐसा ही है. It's a jungle of architectural styles.
When this fort was under the occupation of Nizam Shahi Sultans of Ahmadnagar, they commissioned the Rangeen Mahal. Delicate arches and remnants of ornate windows tell the tale of past glory of the ruins that remain of a once beautiful structure. An ambitious plan has been outlined for the conservation and restoration of the Daultabad Fort. Skilled craftsmen have been invited from far-flung places to team up for this task.
I believe that government cannot do everything. NGOs have a role to play in this. And unless citizens, common citizens associate with these monuments and do something for them, they also chip in, these monuments are not going to be part of our children's lives.
Work is underway to give a new lease of life to decaying structures. It is both expensive and fraught with risks. Memories associated with this fort are not restricted to battles, victories, and defeats. They also recall tales of prosperity and dividends of peace, of a time when melody wafted in air and majestic monuments were raised. This fort is a priceless national heritage, and to protect it is a duty we can't shirk.